folks, welcome into another episode of That Betting Show for August 5th, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Covers. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at RightSide VP. How about this one? The Yankees, Teddy, bury the Red Sox over the weekend. And oh yeah, we feasted on it last week. We had a little bit of fun on that Thursday night football game. Now we have our first full week of preseason action. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Let's get right to the hot topics here, Teddy. Not a good weekend for those Red Sox fans or backers. The Sox swept by the Yankees, putting them, Teddy, 14 and a half games back. What happened here?
What happened is they had a very, very rough weekend in the Bronx. Look, they had a rough time before they went to the Bronx with a series against Tampa. Remember, it was a week ago, a little bit more than a week ago. Was it after last Saturday? The Yankees had lost 3 straight to Boston. The Red Sox were surging. They were down to 20-1 to win the World Series in some spots. Well, that was then. This is now. They're 60-1 now. The Rays now have a 6.5 game lead in the wild card race. The Indians and the A's way ahead of Boston as well in what looks like a 3-way race. And when you go from 20-1 to 60-1 in a week to your future book odds, you know you've had a rough week. That was certainly the case for the Boston Red Sox in the Bronx all weekend.
Teddy, when you take a look at this overall with the New York Yankees, sitting now plus 500 to win the World Series, plus 210 to win the AL. Obviously, the other team that's going to be in charge in the AL would be the Houston Astros. Taking a look at the moves at the trade deadline where the Yankees really didn't push forward. And now you're seeing again, Edwin Encarnacion ends up breaking his wrist, getting hit by a pitch. Luke Voigt is out. Looks like maybe even Gleyber Torres might miss some time along with Aaron Hicks. These, injuries, which were amazing to start the year for the Yankees, they held through, but it seems like they're creeping their head through. Are there any value in the Yankees, or maybe you want to sit tight approach saying, you know what? I'm not too sure they can really hang with the Houston Astros until they get healthy, but they're taking hits every single day here, Teddy.
When it comes to plus 500 to win the World Series, means you get 5-1 odds on the Yanks to win the World Series. Here we are, the beginning of August. There are teams that are better than the Yankees in terms of the Astros and the Dodgers, certainly on paper, every bit as good, if not better. Certainly starting pitching-wise, both teams better than the Yanks. You say, is there value there? Hell no, there's no value there. The sportsbook took a ton of Yankee money early in the season, and that's why we're seeing odds like this. The future books will always reflect sportsbook needs, okay? It's going to reflect how much money they took on any given team at any given time, and they've already taken plenty of Yankees money. They're not looking for more Yankees money. So value, there tends to be little value in the future book to begin with. Value on a team that got steamed hard in April and May at big plus prices? No, there's no value on the Yanks.
Let's keep it here in Major League Baseball and talk a little bit of National League wildcard race. It's a little bit more clear-cut there, Teddy, in the AL, but the NL certainly shaping up to be interesting. How about this? 7 teams within 3.5 games of each other. The Cardinals currently hold the top spot along with the Philadelphia Phillies and Nationals, who are tied for that second spot. You get the Brewers a couple games back there. The Mets, 9-1 in their last 10, charging only 3 back of that last spot here. And we take a look at some of these odds here, Teddy, to make the playoffs. The Nationals still the favorite at minus 175, along with the Cardinals at minus 145. The Phillies plus 195, the Brewers plus 220, and there are those Mets at plus 240. 7 teams, 3.5 games, Teddy, about 2 months left in the season here.
Now, if you've been watching that betting show every day, you know there are 2 futures that I put in my pocket. I think you put them in yours as well, Donnie. We put futures on the Nationals in our pockets. We put futures on the Mets in our pockets when both teams were down and out. Now, all of a sudden, both those teams they're live. Let's just put it that way. So if you got a 40-1, a 50-1, a 60-1, you're sitting with a positive expectation wager, regardless of how it turns out, you're in mathematically good shape. Now, when you talk about 7 teams within 3.5 games of a wild card spot, we know what this race is going to be. This race is going to be fun. If the National League doesn't have intriguing series throughout the final week of the regular season, you and I and fans are going to be disappointed. Bettors, well, they won't care. As long as there's something to bet on, they're not worried about whether the races are going to be good. But these races have all the makings of down-to-the-wire affairs, which is what we love in MLB.
Yep, old school detractors there, Teddy. Wild card ruins it a little bit. Should have it a little bit, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I actually like this rule, and especially for gambling purposes as well, Teddy. You might be able to find an edge team still in it to the end. We'll keep an eye on that betting show all the way through the month of August and September, carrying you right through to those Major League playoffs. It's time to talk a little bit of football now, though, Teddy. Around the league in the NFL and that betting show, Brady gets a pay bump in 2019. How about this, Teddy? 43 years old. He just had his birthday. $23 million. That's a pretty nice payday for the season. Yannick Ngakoue ends his holdout, comes back to Jaguars camp. The Eagles lose a middle linebacker. And how about this one still, Teddy? Look, hey, we got to get ready here for Hard Knocks coming up. Antonio Brown, get into camp. Let's have some quotes here.
Yeah, and of all of those moves, the one that certainly stands out to me is Antonio Brown. You know, we're talking about a guy who has the potential to be a game breaker, a difference maker for Oakland. But they got to get him to camp, and they got him healthy. You know, if you saw the picture of the blisters on his foot, you know, it may not be an easy recovery for Antonio Brown. And certainly when you look at the Raiders and that initial schedule, you look at Oakland's first 7 games of the season, there's no team in the NFL that has a tougher slate. And if they're 1-6 after 7 games, Antonio Brown still hurt, you know, how hard is he going to work to get his foot back healthy? That, to me, an injury worth monitoring for Oakland in a big, big way. Their season depends on Antonio Brown being good to go on opening day.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing, Teddy, walking on hot coals, but I saw the pictures there, and that looks absolutely painful. And you're talking about a guy who's paid by his feet, so to speak. That's going to be interesting to see how it follows through, see how that heals up by getting him into camp and ready to go. Certainly a big part of the Oakland Raiders offense this year. Let's talk a little bit of college football now, Teddy, our top 20 preview here on That Betting Show, getting you ready for college football opening day. Today, we're going to take a look at those Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big Ten, 15-1 in 2019, Teddy. 15-1 odds to win the 2019 title. The Buckeyes, 10.5 as a team total, plus 110 juiced a little bit in your favor if you do want to take that over. 13-1 in 2018, 8-1 in the Big Ten. Taking a look at Ryan Day, Teddy. 3-0 last year as interim coach. This is his first crack at the helm, taking it through a full season. Now, look, you lost a quarterback there. You lost a lot of offense because when you're taking a look at what took place last year with Ohio State, Teddy, 42 points per game. That's going to be interesting and see how they can keep up with that. The one thing that was a little bit troubling is the 10th overall total defense in the Big Ten was with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, they do have a lot returning back on defense, but it's obviously going to be focused on the quarterback, Justin Fields, the transfer, highly touted transfer coming over from UGA. Hopefully can steady the reins at the quarterback spot. But OSU, 15-1, decent shot to win the national title here, Teddy. How about it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to talk, college football in this decade, you're going to put Alabama and Clemson 1-2, and then you're probably going to put Ohio State 3. I mean, that's how consistent this program has been. And you look at the last 4 years. I mean, 12-1, 11-2, 12-2, 13-1 in the national championship discussion in every season. That's 48-6 straight up over the last 4 years. From a point spread perspective, those same 4 years, 6-7, 6-7, 8-6, 6-8. That's 26-28 ATS. So it's not like the markets are undervaluing Ohio State on a regular basis. They've had this team priced correctly, hence the 500 spread record, despite the extraordinary straight-up success. Now, you talk about Justin Fields, 1 year at Georgia, where I think he was the number 1 overall, the highest-rated quarterback recruit in the country when he went to Georgia, and he ended up getting pushed out. That happens at those top programs. So now, as the transfer, he's going to get a chance to work in this Ryan Day offense. Loaded with skill position weapons. I mean, really are. They lost a lot at receiver, but I don't worry about Ohio State lacking weapons when it comes to big playmakers. What I do worry about this year, new coach, new quarterback, and a rebuilt offensive line. Big-time rebuild. 4 starters going out the door. Only 38 career starts returning on that offensive line. I know there's talent there. It's Ohio State. They've recruited well. But at least out of the get-go, that offensive line with a new QB and a new coach, it's a red flag. It's something to pay attention to. You talked about Ohio State's defense last year, and you want to talk a decline. It was a huge decline. They'd allowed 15, 19 points per game the previous 3 years. Last year, they allowed 25. The no Bosa, obviously, which was an issue. They were counting on him, and he didn't end up playing like they thought he was going to. But it is a defense that, like the offensive line, has its fair share of question marks coming into 2019. Again, Ohio State's ranked, top 5, they number 3, whatever they are. They're top 5 team. From a point spread bargain standpoint, not likely to see a whole lot. I've got my concerns about Ohio State in 2019 in a lot of different ways. This not likely to be another year for Ohio State to get to the playoffs, in this bettor's opinion.
Yeah, it should be interesting, Teddy, to end the season. We'll see if Michigan can finally get over the hump and topple those Buckeyes there under Harbaugh. But we'll keep an eye on that because we're only a couple weeks away here. August 24th, Miami and UF kicks it off down in Florida in Orlando. We'll have a lot of fun there being with sportsbookreview.com. Should be a good time, but let's talk a little bit of overnight line movers. Where is the absolute best place to get these line movements and changes? Of course, people, it's SBRodds.com. How about this one? Lyles, second start with Milwaukee, getting to see a move. And how about breaking out the video tributes, Teddy, going back to his home in Pittsburgh? Brewers opened up at minus 116. Now sit around that minus 140 range. Lyles versus Agrizal tonight.
Yeah, and the market's liking Lyles right now in his second go-round with the Brewers. His first start with his old team, pretty good. Went to Oakland, gave up 1 run, 3 hits, 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. His quote, a breath of fresh air, a new start, a division race, new life, I guess you can say. The market's expecting more of the same. And, of course, Pittsburgh, they've lost their last 7 series. They're 4-18 in 22 games since the All-Star break. No surprise. The money has come the other way. I was a little bit surprised last week. We talked about it when the money came on Pittsburgh. Not today and not in this matchup.
Reeling Red Sox a heavy favorite on Monday here, Teddy. Opened up minus 200, now sitting at 250, the perfect tonic for winning. Obviously, it appears to be playing those Kansas City Royals. Total of 11.5. Montgomery and Porcello on the mound tonight.
Yeah, and the markets don't like Montgomery. They got it from the Cubs last month, and anytime you're the Cubs are trading a pitcher to Kansas City, what's up with that. He's been on pitch counts throughout. Last time out, 4 runs, 7 hits, 4 1/3 against the Blue Jays. 3 starts with KC. He's yet to get a win. His ERA is approaching 8. And, oh, by the way, he's facing a pretty good lineup. Although, frankly, is this a spot to lay this price with Boston? I wouldn't get to the window with the Red Sox today. And Porcello's been rough. He's got the second worst ERA in the major leagues among qualified starters. He's given up 6 runs or more in 4 of his last 6 outings. And Boston lost 8 in a row. They're 14.5 games back of the Yankees in the AL East and 6.5 games back in the wild card chase. So I understand the markets are saying they don't want KC. It's a Boston spot, but Red Sox aren't playing the type of baseball that makes me inclined to lay this price, especially off a very deflating series against the Yankees. Not this better. Markets are doing it, not me.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up there because it's sort of, coming off a 4-game series, you get swept, you look at your 14.5 back. Some teams might get energized, but some teams look back and say, what are we playing for here in the AL East? Certainly not much here. We'll see what happens tonight with those Kansas City Royals. How about this one? Paying the Yankee price, Teddy. We saw it. Nice 4-game sweep. The Yankees living high and mighty. A lot of injuries piling up, but going on the road to Oriole Park at Camden Yards where the Yankees, quite frankly, call that their own house and hit bomb after bomb after bomb, it seems, down there. They're going to open up heavy today, Teddy. How about this? As high as minus 245 at SBRodds.com right now. Total sitting at 10.5. Tanaka versus Inoue.
Yeah, I mean, Inoue's pitched fairly well against the Yankees. He's been solid in relief. 3 runs over 14 1/3 in his last 6 outings. But there's certainly a class difference between these two teams. I'm surprised at all this Yankees money. I'm really, after the Yankees finish facing the Red Sox, and now you got the Orioles next, you worry about a letdown for sure. And don't look now. Baltimore has won or split their last 3 series. Admittedly, Angels, Padres, Blue Jays, not 3 teams that are playing great ball right now. But Orioles are 14-14 their last 28 games. They're dogs every time they're out there. When you see a team like Baltimore that's playing better in a potential letdown spot for the Yankees, I'll put it this way. If you fade the Yankees and the Red Sox today, I wouldn't be surprised at all. You cash at least one of those 2 tickets at a nice plus price.
I like that. Yeah, nice plus. Looking at some of that because if you have looked at the Orioles playing better baseball, you wouldn't think of it if you weren't paying attention to it. But that's coming alive there for Baltimore. It should be interesting tonight. We do know Tanaka struggles a little bit with lefties, and that's something they can stack the lineup with, Teddy, with those Baltimore Orioles or a couple switch-hitting lefties in the lineup. Let's take a look here at what you're going to watch tonight on that betting show, Teddy. Interleague play opens up in the Windy City. Good one here. Athletics and the Cubs. Cubs favored by about minus 150. Checking out SBRodds.com. Total of 9.5 from the Windy City. The A's 64-48 on the season. Cubs 60-51. Bassett versus Hendricks tonight, Teddy.
Yeah, 2 teams that are both playing good ball right now. Oakland's 14-7 since the All-Star break, 667 ball. They're 28-12 in their last 40. Okay. Meanwhile, the Cubs, they've won, 11 of their last 13 at home, 22 of the last 31 at home. I mean, this has been a strong home field. Anthony Rizzo, quote, it's going to come down to the wire. We know that. It can be spit up, chewed out, thrown in 100 different computers, but it's going to come down to the wire. That's just the way it's going to be this year, and we're ready. We're ready to just keep playing. Of course, Hendricks has been real good for Chicago. His last 6 starts, 2.25 ERA. He has only 1 win during that span. However, last time out, pretty dominant against St. Louis, allowed only 7 hits in 7 innings of a 2-0 win. But the Cubs have scored 3 runs or less in each of those 7 starts, and they've gone 1-6 in those ball games. Chris Bassett, he's been pretty good. 2.35 ERA his last 4 starts, a couple of wins during that span. Pitched well against the Brewers last time out, but it's worth noting Bassett's road ERA a full 1.5 higher than it has been in Oakland this year. That is a concern in Chicago against a pretty potent Cubs lineup.
Certainly a little bit easier to pitch in that ballpark out there in Oakland as opposed to pitching in the Windy City in Chicago. We'll keep an eye on those weather conditions as well throughout the day. How about this one, Teddy? Braves head north to take on the Twins. Another good interdivision battle. The Braves and the Twins tonight. Lines, checking out SBRodds.com right now, Teddy. Right around a pick 'em on both ways. Total of 10. The Braves 66-47 on the season, 34-22 away. The Twins 69-42 on the season. They can't shake those Indians just yet, but not for a lack of effort there. The Twins continue to hit home runs at a record pace. We'll see what happens tonight. Soroka versus Odorizzi.
Yeah, Twins coming off a nice weekend sweep over, admittedly, the Royals are struggling, but they beat Kansas City. Up next, they've got the Indians. Pretty big series there. So in between, they visit Target Field. This is a huge stretch. They're at Target Field. They face Tampa. A huge stretch for the Twins right here, and obviously they've started out fairly well in that regard. Jake Odorizzi had his start against KC pushed back, so he would be able to go against the more potent Braves lineup. So this is, again, Minnesota is taking this very seriously, and they prep for this 100%. Of course, Atlanta, they still have bullpen issues. They trade for Shane Green for Detroit, and Shane Green proceeds to get lit up twice in his first 2 Braves appearances, giving up 4 runs in 2 innings with Atlanta. Don't know if he's going to be available to go today. Blew the game yesterday. That's a concern, even with Soroka on the hill, and he's been great. 10-2, 230.37 ERA, an all-star this year and deserving all of it. Right now, we still can't trust the Braves bullpen. That concerns me here, especially with Minnesota setting up their rotation specifically for this game in this series. Twins playing good ball right now. I could only look in their direction tonight.
Yeah, good point on Shane Green there, Teddy, when we look at it, because when we're taking a look at a closer coming over, he was absolutely dominant for Detroit, and then you flip it over, he comes to Atlanta, he can't get anybody out. Should be interesting. That's one thing from going from pitching in anonymity over to pitching into a playoff race, something to keep an eye on for the rest of the season. Playoff implications in Los Angeles. We talked about it earlier, Teddy. St. Louis, if it were to end today, would be in the playoffs. Obviously, the same thing with the Dodgers. Dodgers favored anywhere between -150 to -160 at SBRodds.com. Total of 9. It's going to start late tonight at a 10-10 start. The Cardinals, 58-52 on the season. The Dodgers 74-40. Waka versus Gonsolin on the mound tonight.
Yeah, and again, the Dodgers are auditioning these guys for their postseason roster. And here's Gonsolin taking, Hyun Jun Roo's spot, who was placed on the 10-day injured list. He got a sore neck. They don't expect him to miss 1 start. So hey, let's take a look at this guy, see if he can help us in October. A recall from AAA OKC, just a second big league start. His quote: I feel like every opportunity is a chance to showcase yourself, root for yourself, and try to earn a postseason roster spot. But it's not in my control. I just got to do the best I can every time I go out there. His first start wasn't necessarily that good. He did get a 4-inning save last Tuesday at Coors Field in his second career appearance. Dave Roberts talking about what he needs from his young hurler. Quote, strike throwing, young pitchers, it's not really a question of the stuff. They're here because they have good stuff. I think the most important thing you see in a successful big league pitcher is the ability to throw a strike and get ahead. Of course, Waka's one of these guys. His stuff was ridiculous. And as a young hurler, this guy's going to be an ace. And then the injuries popped up, and hasn't been the same guy. He's still winning, 6-4, ERA over 5. Gave up 1 run in 4 2/3 in relief against Houston on July 27th. That's the last time he hit the hill to get another chance at the Cards' number 5 starter. St. Louis feasted on the week a little bit. We saw them come back to earth over the weekend when they stepped up in class. This is a cheap price to lay with LA. It's cheaper price we've seen of the Dodgers all year at home. That being said, Dodgers are playing mediocre baseball right now. And even though the Cards have struggled of late, I can only look in the plus price direction on St. Louis with Waka pitching for a rotation spot.
Always scary to go against those Los Angeles Dodgers, too. It just feels like at any moment, Teddy, they can just reach into their bag and pull a 3-run home run out from anybody in that lineup, as they did yesterday versus the Padres in a high-scoring tilt against Chris Paddock on the mound. So it'll be interesting to see what takes place tonight. How about this off-the-mic segment real quick here, Teddy? As we talked early in the show, the first week of the NFL preseason in full starts this week. Taking a look at some of the approaches that you might use. The one thing that I always find interesting here is you do have the opening night, which we saw last Thursday night, which allows one team to play 5 preseason games. Does that factor into anything that you're looking at here, Teddy, in the first week saying? Because, when we take a look at high school, college, most teams improve from their first game to their second game more than any other throughout the season. Is there any advantage of already going through that dress rehearsal, or not that much heading into this week here?
No, there's really not much of an advantage. The difference, of course, when you talk about, let's say, a college team that plays in week 1, another team that's off until week 2, and the team that played early faces the week 2 team, the college team played a full game, all right? In the NFL preseason, this guy's playing a series, that guy's playing 2. It's not like everybody's playing a full game and the team is in this mesh, and now they got something that they built on together. It doesn't work that way in August in the NFL. Hence, the lack of success when you talk about long-term trends for the teams that played in the Hall of Fame game the following week. All that being said, we can take a look at where the earliest money is going because we've got line moves. Earliest money is showing for the Washington Redskins. They're now favored at Cleveland. Why? Well, Washington's got a quarterback battle. Cleveland doesn't. Miami has taken money against the Falcons. Why? Atlanta now 0-11 ATS, their last 11 preseason games. I think they've lost all of them straight up as well. And, of course, the Baltimore Ravens have taken money in early betting action. Everybody's betting on Harbaugh. He's got the bet on preseason track record, the opposite of Dan Quinn in Atlanta. So that's the early money moves in preseason. These numbers will jump around based on more information as it becomes available over the next few days. But remember one thing, especially when it comes to week 1, there's not going to be a starter on the field after the first quarter anywhere in the league. So don't even pretend to think, these games matter in terms of how good the teams are. No, it's going to be backups versus backups, third stringers versus third stringers for most, at least 3/4 of these week 1 preseason games.
Yep, 2 highest lines here this week, Teddy. -4s. That should tell you a lot about some of these, games coming into the second half and whatnot. But that'll do it today for That Betting Show for August 5th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. The Mets have a doubleheader today, Teddy. Can they again knock off some of those lines into tomorrow and get even closer in that wild card race? Tune in and find out more tomorrow. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour, Rightside VP. Catch us tomorrow for another episode of That Betting Show on SportsbookReview.com.